Oh, actually, you're the first interview for Emmy.
Well, I have let the bar quite low, so it's very good to know that the next one will be able to do it better. Last week, I met with Emilia Sherman and Christian Hector of the band Silurian. You might be familiar with Christian from his role in Ahab, a band he founded, and where he has become famous for very slow and powerful doom metal. Now, Silurian is nothing like that, and in fact, it probably wouldn't classify as metal at all. Instead, this is a shoegaze project, something with a clear inspiration taken from the 80s, and which couldn't be farther from Ahab. What is really interesting about Silurian is that Chris has recruited the help of Emilia. Emilia is a very young singer. This is her first project, and it was really interesting to have this opportunity to discuss with somebody what her experience is like just joining a band that, of course, because Christian is in it, has a certain brand and a certain name recognition that comes from being associated with a musician of a certain repute, while at the same time still being a small thing. This is just a demo, after all. To discuss with them how they got together, what they did together, and how this has resulted in the Descenders, this first demo that they created, was really interesting, and I think that you can enjoy it too. Although you might think that this is not relevant to you if you're not into this type of music, I think that really getting this inside look into what goes inside of a band, particularly when it is just starting, and how different musicians actually struggle with the same things that you struggle with, whether it is shyness or maybe being insecure about your abilities and your skills. This can be a big learning opportunity for you. So I hope that you'll watch it, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. Until next time, stay metal. Singer Emilia Sherman and guitarist Christian Hector of Ahab have recently joined forces to create Silurian, a new independent band that just released their first demo. In it, we find music inspired by 80s fantasy and science fiction, as well as a Phil Collins cover, which was a bit unexpected. Now, despite what Chris's presence might make you think, Silurian are not in the heavy doom style of Ahab, nor, for that matter, can really be classified as heavy metal. Instead, Silurian are a shoegaze project, something spacey, gloomy, and with a strong 80s flavor to it. To find out more about this intriguing new project, I am joined by the entirety of Silurian, Emilia Sherman and Christian Hector. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure.
I'm not going to pretend that this is a creative question, but how are you guys doing? How has it been for you? I know that for musicians, it has been extremely difficult. Also, depending on how social you are, the isolation can be very difficult. So how has it been for you?
As it is like a first time for me to be in a band and be like a real musician, it's not been that bad for me because I don't have much experience in having being part of a band and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a little bit difficult for me to just find dates and times where we could join together to make the music or to record it, because we also have a long distance to travel to each other. So we're, I think, like 450 kilometers away from each other. So that was the only thing which was really difficult.
But Emilia, beyond the exclusively connected to Silurian part, or Silurian, sorry, how was it for you in general? Because this last year was pretty shitty, and this year is not fantastic either so far. So how has it been for you? Has it been very difficult?
If you take it in general, like the whole situation, a part of Silurian, it has been okay. So I'm still in school. It was like this whole online situation, but I made it through.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, same with me, more or less. I mean, of course, I didn't see neither Emilia much nor the guys of Ahab. I mean, we had recently 2 rehearsals again, which was great. And actually, we didn't do that much music because we had to talk that much. But besides that, I mean, I didn't have to struggle with work because music is not my everyday work. And I'm actually working for a company that does children's magazines and stuff like trading cards. And of course, every kid was at home, so our business went very well. Plus that, I was at home very much. I worked from home, and I have like a 1.5-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son. So I've seen them way more than before when I had to go to work every day. So, I mean, of course, it was shitty, but I was a lucky guy actually, and of course, I had some time to do a side project with Emmy, for example, like Silurian. Probably I wouldn't have the time for that if we were on tour.
How did this collaboration end up happening?
Well, I've been like an 80s fan since I grew up in the 80s actually. So it was always a dream, and my the guys in Ahab know I'm absolutely 80s nerd. If something plays on radio and I'm, oh, this is this song from that guy from the 80s, and okay, and you know the text, and of course I do, so I always was connected with the 80s, and so I always wanted to do something like that. I didn't plan to sound like Silurian actually, just as it says in the bio. It just probably I only can write such music. So yeah, and the rest was like I had this fragment of a song for Demons, and I was looking for a singer or female singer, and I posted this little um, this little text on the Ahab Facebook page, and the rest is for Emmy.
Actually, my mom found this or saw this text, and she's always have been very supportive in me singing and everything. So I got teachers and everything, and so she saw this and said, "Oh, Emmy, you have to send him an email and say that you would like to sing with him and stuff." And I was like way too shy, and I was like, "No, I can't do this. My voice isn't good enough." And I waited, I think, like 2 weeks or something to even write the email. And I also sent him like a little song. I think it was from Cage the Elephant, that I covered, and said, "Yeah, that's my voice. I hope you like it." And yeah, he immediately responds and said, "Yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly what I needed." And I was like very overwhelmed, because I thought I consider myself as being not that much technical and stuff like that, and just I have a voice and I can use it, but it's not like I'm a perfect singer or something like that. So I thought he would have way more people who would write him an email, and they would be much better than me. But
There
yeah.
were quite a bunch, but they weren't better than you. There's another fun fact, because Emmy's voice was, I'm not sure if it was like 2 weeks or 2 months ago. She's actually an Ahab fan too,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure, but I think we talked on a show in Belgium with each other, because we played. I think it was Haunting the Castle, and Emmy's mother was there actually.
Yeah. So
And
it's actually very funny, because my mom is also very in this doomy thing, and she loves Ahab. She loves it. And so that's how she also found this text and said, "Amy, you have to, because they're so good." And yeah, and so we were in Belgium, and that's also my home. How should I say? Not hometown, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from. So we were
back.
there. Yeah, and I saw them, and my mom saw them, and they were like, "Hey, we are the parents from Amy," and stuff like that. That's very funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, I'm sorry to ask this question. This is the first time that I ask it, but since you keep mentioning first you're being a student and second your mom, how old are you?
So I'm 19 and I'm getting 20.
You are super young. Okay. So when you submitted this demo, I guess, sorry, your voice first demo to Chris, were you expecting that what you're going to end up creating with him was going to sound closer to Ahab, or that it was going to be closer to what you ended up doing?
I didn't expect that much in any way. So it was just like, I want to sing. I'm open to everything. I hear a lot of different music. So it wasn't like, oh shit, that's music I don't actually like or something like that. It's just, I'm very open and was like, he sent me some fragments and I was like, oh, sounds good. I think we can do something with that. And Chris very much leaded also through this. So I was just like, yeah, I'm a beginner in this whole thing, so I can sing, but that's pretty much it. And he was just like showing me, yeah, we could do it like that or like that. And I wasn't expecting very much. I just was open to everything, and so I'm very happy with what we came out with, because it's just beautiful, I think.
No, it is. It absolutely is. Chris, since we were mentioning before this issue of the first growing up in the 80s and using that sort of inspiration, both in terms of fantasy as well as in terms of the sound. First of all, when you describe growing up in the 80s, do you feel related perhaps to something like Stranger Things or something like that? When you see that kind of childhood, is that?
Of course.
Okay, so that's what you envision.
I love that series, and it was. I mean, I'm not that much anymore into horror stuff, but the first episode of this series, it gave me goosebumps. Really, it was some of the scariest 10 minutes I ever witnessed, at least at that time, probably. I mean, there are other movies like Alien. I think I was 10 or 11 when I watched that. That was close to that, actually. I mean, all this pop stuff, that's where Phil Collins comes from, because I think if I've been like a teenager in the 80s, I wouldn't love Phil Collins that much. But as a child, I mean, obviously you listen to the radio, and still I think the 80s had very much melancholic music when it comes to pop music. Actually, if you listen to stuff like
well, The Cure is pretty depressing.
Yeah, no, but I'm really talking of the pop side, like Tears for Fears. I mean, I didn't know The Cure back then because that was more underground. I was a kid. I listened to the radio, so I didn't have a clue back then from The Cure. But still today, I think the 80s music, besides the crap music, there's pretty much melancholy in that, and that's what made me the musician that I'm today. I write melancholic music, and I can do that. And of course, I'm not good in writing happy music, probably.
And why do you think that, from a creative point of view, you keep going back to that?
When you're a child and you have a good childhood, it's one of the parts, the time of your life. I mean, I love my childhood. I grew up in a little village, and of course, there's I think two things that always pop up in your head. It's like the smell of something and the music of that time. I still, if you smell something, you think of, that's the smell back then when I was with my parents in Spain, for example, on holidays. The house smelled exactly like that, and the same with music. And the second time when you have that is like when you're like teenager, 15, 16. That's, for example, for me, death metal back then, or punk, or that's probably like the two sides of music that will always be some nostalgic. And I think for Emmy, it's probably different times, of course.
No, certainly there will be. It's interesting. I was recently reading, there is this theory, the data for it is not fantastic, but that you finish discovering new music by the time you're 30. I don't agree with this theory. Our youth and our teenage years are really the moment in which we really imprint the things that we like. So if you're a conservative, by the time you're 30, you're probably going to continue being conservative. And if you like heavy metal by the time you're 30, it is statistically much more likely that you're going to stay there. At the same time, however, for me, it has been one of the most fantastic things of growing older has been that I've been able to discover new things, not just new ideas, but also new types of music. I think that when I was 30, I hated bands like Ahab, for example. I thought that Doom, and I thought it was the most boring shit in the world. I'm serious. I hated this. Why does a single note take so long? I don't get it. And eventually kind of grew in me. But the same thing happened with black metal when I started. Now it's the genre that I listen to the most. But at the beginning, I also didn't get the screaming and the aggression and all of that.
Yeah.
Have you changed in that way as well? Have your taste changed as you have grown older?
Of course. I mean, I literally listened during my time growing up until now to almost every genre. I mean, I started out with hip hop in the early 90s with Public Enemy, like the good old days. Still like hip hop music, for example. Kendrick Lamar is an awesome lyricist too, or for example, a really good band is Run the Jewels, for example. Really cool stuff. I listened to like The Doors when I was, I think, 18, and I was like more like a hippie. I listened to punk music. In the last 10 years, I had a phase where I was pretty much into electronic music. I listen, I'm always open. At the moment, I'm pretty much into or try to discover like this cavernous death metal stuff. Didn't find too much bands I really like, but I'm intrigued by this special sound they have. It reminds me a bit sometimes of like our first album of Ahab, for example, or like Esoteric.
The reason why I was asking, and this is where I would appreciate both of your opinions, is because your new project, Silurian, right? Silurian. Silurian is so different from everything else that I had heard from you before, and that I was curious as to what ended up leading to the creation of this. So that is how I get to this point of how has your music taste changed, because you're not the same person who started Ahab, you're not the same person that started Metzotl, and this is something completely different. So where were you musically, or why is it that you wanted to create something that sounds so different? And what was the input that you, Emmy, had in kind of the construction of what ended up being this first demo?
Probably because at that time when I had this idea, I was pretty much into this new synth wave, how you want to call it, and I was pretty much into stuff like Gunship, for example, which, in my opinion, if these guys were doing music in the 80s, they'd been really big pop stars because their songs are really good. And yeah, and I think that's when I had the idea of, well, now probably it's the time to start something more in the 80s, and I always wanted to do that. And what's the point? I mean, I have Ahab. Why should I do another project that sounds like Ahab? That's obsolete.
What about you, Emmy? If I say, oh, Bruce Dickinson is looking for a bad guitar player, and I get the job, I would be very surprised if the outcome sounds nothing like Iron Maiden, right? So,
Yeah.
did you know it from the get-go that this was going to sound so different?
yeah, I knew from these little fragments he sent me early on that it wouldn't sound like Ahab at all. But he said it also from the beginning. He was like, Amy, we're doing something else. We're doing a dream of mine. Right out of the 80s, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not familiar with this genre at all. So it was really, I was like exploring it while creating it with Chris. It was really just, I was looking for other bands, and he was showing me other bands. He was like, yeah, look at this sound, I like that, and look at this song, there's something I like about that. And I was like looking and hearing all of it and just taking it all in to try, yeah, get an idea and a feeling for this music, so I could also like take this emotion and really put it also in our music. Because I think the most important thing is that you can really feel what you sing. If you can't feel it, then it's just not gonna work. And so I was really trying to find my way into this music. And I just pretty much just tried to bring the emotions I felt with this music into the singing I was doing, and that's what came out. And I think it worked pretty well. So you were asking a few minutes ago also what I did in the whole creating thing, and I think that I just really focused on this singing part. So I wasn't really in this like creating the whole music around it, but just concentrating on my part, because I just do not have that much experience yet and in creating songs. So I was letting Chris do most of it. And I had the idea of making those like second and third voices, I think, with the one song we did. And yeah, so I did like little things like that, and just the whole melody thing. Sometimes I just said, oh, we could make it like this and stuff like that. But yeah, it was mostly Chris with this demo, because I was just very new in the whole thing. So I was.
No, I think it's fantastic that you're very new, because it gives me a very good opportunity. I'm very happy to be able to speak with you today, because normally I speak with musicians who have been doing it for longer, and by the time they do it longer, they start lying more about how confident they are about themselves, or about how good they are. So it is very good to hear you, and it also gives me an opportunity to ask you something that I'm very curious about. What do you think so far? This is your first participation in a band like this.
Yeah.
What has been the most difficult part for you? Is it just the fact that you mentioned at the beginning, for example, that your mom tells you, send him an email? I know, no, because not gonna do that. So I am curious as to what's the difficulty of saying, okay, I'm going to show my work to somebody else and let them judge it, or was it, fuck, they liked it, now I have to show it to more people?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty accurate. So it was really a huge accomplishment for me to even just show this cover and say, yeah, that's my voice. I never did post it somewhere or do anything with it. It was just for me. It was on my phone, and I was just listening to it sometimes all alone in my room. And to just really show it, and to now have a fucking demo with my voice on it, it makes me proud. And it was, at the beginning I was just really 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 shy. So I think you also get this vibe. I'm still shy, but it was worse. It was way worse. And I also needed a lot of time to even really start accepting that I have now to really go through this thing and just do the music and sing stuff and send it to Chris, because I was so shy and I didn't want to send anything. I thought, oh, that sounds horrible, I can't send this. And so this whole beginning process was very long because of me, because I was very shy. And as I finally got started, then it was a big relief. And I thought, okay, now we're just doing it, and it worked. And second thing,
wait a I just want to tell you something on that. I mean, when we first met here, I mean, a voice is always, if you never sung to someone and you sing, it's like to strip, because the voice is, I mean, when you play guitar, it's something different. It's similar, but a voice is like to strip. And when she came the first time to me, her mother brought her to my place, and I have like a tiny little home studio, and she sang. And the first day, I thought, oh, that's hard. And on the second day, I told her, and I think she was more like not that shy anymore. And then she sang how she really sings, and I was like, all right, that's what I heard in your voice.
Yeah.
And that was when it got to work, actually.
It's always weird to be in a situation where you did something and you present it to an audience, all of whom are judging it, right? So all of whom need to either like it or hate it, and some of them will let you know that they think it's terrible.
Yeah.
And that is a very strange experience. And I can only, I would not have wanted to go down that path when I was 19. I mean, so I admire you tremendously for years ago. Like, fuck it, let's do it. Not just let's do it. Yeah, some random dude wants to interview it. Fuck it, let's do that one too. It's like a lot of choices that I would not have done when I was 19. So it's really cool that you're doing it.
Oh, actually, you're the first interview for Emmy.
Well, I have led the bar quite low, so it's very good to know that the next one will be able to do it better. So that's what I'm doing, just working for them. Chris, it's a demo, as I mentioned before. It only has 3 songs, one of which is the Phil Collins cover. But at the beginning, the first 3, and this one is for you because of the lyrics. You base it, or at least are inspired by The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, the movie The Tripods, and the series of books The Tripods, and a third one that I forgot right now. Why did you pick those works in particular?
I mean, I love The Gate because it was, I think, one of my first horror movies. It's more like a teenage horror movie. I think it's for 12-year-old guys. I loved that when I was a kid, and I thought, yeah, I'm not actually sure why I picked that, but I loved that, and so I did it. And the tripods, same. I loved the series. It's a BBC series, actually, from the 80s too. And I didn't have that in mind. And someday, Cornelius, our drummer of Ahab, presented me the book. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I think he just bought it and sent it to me as a present. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I never read the book back then, and I read it, and it was awesome. And yeah, I think Emmy likes science fiction too.
Yeah, but also more science fiction in a book and not in a movie because I'm very sensible, I think, and I don't like to watch movie at all. And then I was like getting this message from Chris. Yeah, you should look the film The Gate, because it would be important to know the story behind it if you're gonna sing about it. And I was like, yeah, of course, I agree. I was with my boyfriend looking this movie and holding my blanket like that. No, I don't want to watch.
We're talking of a teenage movie,
Of the 80s.
It's not
of the 80s.
Not a real real horror movie like Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that. It's just like, I mean, it's a bit scary from times to times, but it's an okay movie.
They have opened the gate. Pray it's not too late.
Chris laughed, of course. He was like, yeah, it's okay. It's just a little film with like, yeah, the effects from the 80s weren't as good as stuff you can watch now with Star Wars or stuff like that. And yeah, and my boyfriend laughed too, of course. He was like, Amy, just look, if you don't watch it, you can't sing about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying hard. But it's just, yeah, I'm very sensible, and it was a real challenge for me, but I did it.
What about this the War of the Worlds? Because you started to read it in French for the
That was spontaneous, absolutely.
Yeah, I saw that in the it says spontaneously read in French by or spontaneously read by Emmy.
No, it was just like we thought what can we do now? I think it was late on a Sunday when Emmy had to go, and I was like, let's do something. And I love I think I told Emmy before about Anne Clark. You know Anne Clark, of course.
Yeah.
Hopeful. And yes, I said, read something. And we thought, okay, what do we read now? And then I just had to look up some book, and we thought about War of the Worlds. And as Emmy speaks French very good, I thought, why not do it in French? And that's when Emmy just started to read it. I recorded it, and afterwards did some music for it.
I also like the cover a lot, and it reminded me a lot of Isaac Asimov. And then I saw that in the press release, you actually quote Isaac Asimov's quote about life and death and the moment in between. Tell me about that cover.
I've seen that on, I think it was a sci-fi art group on Instagram, and I did a screenshot and sent it to Emmy and asked, what do you think of it? And yeah, she liked it. And then I looked up who did that. It was actually, I think, a campaign for Sony Music or something like that. I'm not sure when it was, but it was a way ago. And I asked him if we could use it, because it's so, on the one hand, it's so 80s. On the other hand, it's so cute. But then again, it's totally freaked out scary, because it's so like, I mean, it looks like your childhood, but it's totally out of place, because it's a robot. It's a fucking robot that's the friend of these two guys. Um, and what I thought about was like, who is like the one threatened in this book? Is it the robot, or is it the humans actually? Because you never know. I mean, who's the one? Normally the humans are like the bad guys everywhere. I mean, not in films, of course, but in reality. So that I really like that.
It fits really well with our theme we're going for in our music. It's this question, who is controlling the world, and this picture just really asks these questions for itself.
Chris, Emmy, we've managed to speak 40 minutes of 4 songs. So
Yeah.
I think it's a new record. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It has been really fun. Emmy, congratulations on your first interview. Hopefully the rest will be considerably better. You will have more talented interview. It has been really a great pleasure to meet you. I wish you all the best. And Chris, the same thing to you, man. All the best. Oh, yes, before I forget, Chris, let's backtrack. I will have to cut and put this back, but still. Chris, is there anything coming up with Ahab anytime soon? I know that it's been about 6 years since your last studio album, and there was a live album released last year.
Yeah, I mean, the live album, never mind. I mean, I'm not that much into live albums, so I think it's fun for if you're a big fan, but it was nothing special for me actually. But yes, of course, there's something coming up. I hope so. Probably next year. We're just writing new songs. We have ideas for 2 albums actually already, but yeah, the plan was to release this year something, but then Corona came and we couldn't meet, so that was not possible. So, but we're at it.
Any chance of female backing vocals? Because I know somebody who might be interested.
on our
Took a while for okay.
yes. I'm not sure. Well,
Who
I think
knows?
I think Emmy has to get to know the band better, and then everyone will say, "Oh, let's
And
have Emmy."
we know one thing for sure: her mom would be absolutely in favor of her
That's
doing it.
funny.
So
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so
she
true.
would be an extremely happy mother if she
Yeah,
accomplishes that.
she would.
Fantastic.